Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining tonight. I think it is going to be a very exciting session with Willem joining us today. So, before we start and get into all of that, let me give you guys a bit of an introduction of who I am. And while I do that, I'm going to pop up some slides as well. So, obviously, my name is Armand. I'm one of the senior sports recruiters here with Sable International. And my background is all regarding sports. I'm very passionate about sports and I grew up playing sports. From Pretoria, I grew up in Pretoria, went to a school here called High School Menlo Park, whereas my main two sports were rugby and athletics, and eventually decided to pursue my dream of becoming a rugby player. So after school, went to go play under 19 provincial rugby. Unfortunately, with sports, there is something called injuries. And I unfortunately picked up a serious injury. So it was time for me to go study, where I then went to the Northwest University, where I studied marketing management, and after studying marketing management, I went into coaching. And I coached for about 8 years. I coached at high school, university, and club level of rugby. And it was through my coaching that I then moved into a sports recruitment role here with Sable International, and more specifically, the study abroad sports department within Sable International. So, yeah, that's a bit of an intro so you know who the host is for today. That is me. Again, my name is Armand. And what we're going to have a look at today is I'm going to tell you a little bit more about our business, what we do, how how we work with universities overseas and getting students to go study in the USA and compete there in their sports on scholarships. And it's not going to stop there tonight. We also have one of our students who is currently in the USA, in Wisconsin. He is going to join us, Willem Kurtzen. I'll give a bit of a more introduction a bit later into regards to who Willem is. And he's obviously going to have some chance to tell you guys about his journey. And as you can see on the screen, this is the American journey we're going to talk about today. But before we go on to Willem, let me tell you a little bit more about our company and who we are. So our name is Sable International. Now that's our big brand company name, and we are specifically the study abroad sports department, but Sable is much bigger than that. We have 15 different departments within Sable International, and what we do is we, as Sable, assist people in internationalizing themselves, their families, and their businesses, whether that's through cross border financial advice, immigration solutions, visas, investments, properties, or education. We do all of that within Sable International. And within those 15 departments, we have two education departments. We have one education department that is solely based on academics, and they are affiliated with over 400 universities worldwide, from the US to Canada to UK, Europe, Australia, and New Zealand. And then you have our department. We are the study abroad sports department, and we mostly focused on academics and getting sports scholarships for our students. Now, we've been around for 25 years as Sable, as a whole company, and our department has been around since 2015. Now, since 2015, we've been able to place over 700 kids in the USA to go play there in their sports, respective sports, whether that's athletics, whether it's rugby or hockey or whatever sport the kids want to play, we assist them in that. Now, with that, we also get about $35,000 in scholarship per year per kid to go study in the States and have accumulator around 60 million US dollars worth of scholarships. On top of that, we also have 100% placement rate. So we do not accept everyone into our program, but once we have accepted you into our program or your kid into our program, we do make sure that you get placed on a scholarship overseas. So that is our business in a nutshell. Our headquarters are based in London, but our sports recruitment department is based in Johannesburg in South Africa. And we are very excited to work with you guys and go through today's session. So, as I mentioned, we have Willem. I see Willem has already joined the meeting as well. So, Willem, if you can also just share your screen on your side, then I'm going to give a brief introduction to who you are. I see Willem is joining us. Hi, Vian. I see you also said hi there in the chat. Hi, Willem.
Hello, is everything working? Sorry, I had some issues on my setup. Um,
No, no problem at
I,
all.
I
We
think
can
I think
clearly hear you.
I think it's time for a new laptop. I've had this one for a while.
No, it looks the camera looks good, and I'm so glad you could join us tonight. Obviously, there's a bit of a time difference. With you, it's in the morning, and with us, it's at night here. But yeah, Willem, before I get into asking you some questions about yourself, um, I'm going to stop sharing my presentation so that we can clearly see you as well. So let me just take off the presentation, and then there we go. Okay, so Willem, tell me a bit about yourself, who you are, and yeah, before we get into asking you a bit of questions, I'm firstly going to ask you some questions, and then I'm going to open up the floor for the people also to ask who has joined us tonight to ask questions. So Willem, give us a 30 seconds intro about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So, grew up in Vanderbijl Park or Vale Vanderbijl. Um, Went to school at Transvalia High School, and I went straight out of high school. I came to the US, came to Arkansas State. Been been very fortunate. Received a track and field scholarship to do shot put and discus. Managed to do fairly well within the sports space. Graduated last year with my undergrad in actuarial science, and I'm currently busy doing my master's degree in finance at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. So, yeah, a little bit of my background. I hope my English has improved a lot. I'm actually purely Afrikaans, but since coming overseas, I haven't had many people speak Afrikaans, so you kind of learn English. But yeah, happy to be here, and thanks for hosting this, Armand.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us and to tell your journey. I think that's the reason most of the people are here tonight, is to hear what your journey is. Someone who has gone through this process and have learned throughout this process what goes on. So yeah, thank you for joining us. And your English, you sound like a American from my side. So clearly the English has improved. You can hear my voice. I still have that Afrikaans accent. So yeah, my first question to start off the session with you is, let's go back to the beginning. So tell us a bit more about how you first got inspired to go to the US and follow and pursue this dream of competing in your discus and shot put in the States.
Yeah, I think I actually have like quite an interesting story. Um, I was very fortunate enough. I went to high school with a guy called Chris van Niekerk, and he actually went through this program as well. And at the time when I met Chris, he was in grade 11 and I was grade 9. And he already went through the process. And it's kind of funny how we met. I'm sure, if you play rugby in high school, like the coaches kind of want you to do something in track. And I was not a big fan of, long distance. So, I mean, everybody had to run the 100 meters. But I was like, I didn't need to do something else. And I was doing shot put. And I think it was still in Sasolburg or Sasolburg. We did a meet, and Chris's dad came up to me afterwards and said, hey, I can see there's a lot of raw talent here. Would you love to come train with my son? And that kind of escalated things. And he kind of started talking about the US and how the US offers scholarships for track. And I thought, well, it'd be a great opportunity to kind of go abroad and put myself in kind of different waters, challenge myself. And that's kind of how I got into kind of the college scene in the US. It was never my plan since the beginning to come overseas. I think it was kind of more something that I fell into kind of later in high school, or not late, I would say grade 9, going to grade 10. We started looking at potentially, coming overseas.
Okay, no, awesome. That's very. It's always nice when you have people who support you behind a journey like this, especially when someone sees your talent, and with that included. In my next question, how did you come to Sable or back then, obviously we were Aspire Atlantic still, but how did you come to Sable International and the study abroad sports department to assist in this process of going overseas?
Yeah, sure. So I think when I started the process, so obviously going back to Chris, his parents also kind of big pushes, telling my parents it'd be a good idea to go overseas if, the schools would pay for me to go there. Chris went through the program. I kind of saw a glimpse of, what everybody was doing. I was very fortunate. I worked with someone that was, I worked with Lindy. She was very good, very organized. There was never a doubt in anything I had. I remember at that time there was some problems with the visas, like getting visa appointments, as back in 2021. I mean, Lindy was very good. I don't know how she got me a visa appointment at that time, but she worked very well. I would say it's kind of through Chris. Just kind of saw how he went through it. Wasn't very familiar with the process and thought, having someone with insight into how everything works would be kind of the best way to go about this and kind of maximizing, where I place essentially.
Yeah. So in the process with working with Lindy, where would you feel like you were most uncertain in the journey of going from South Africa to the States, where she kind of stepped in and took charge? Obviously, you mentioned a bit with the visa issues, but on a more personal note, I know it's always difficult to get into contact with coaches or know how to talk to coaches. Where was your hurdle that you felt like, okay, this is something I can't do? Will Lindy be able to do this?
Yeah, sure. So I think at the time, looking back, I don't think I had any idea how anything worked overseas. So just kind of having that kind of support of saying, okay, am I doing the right thing? So I think it's very important reaching out to coaches, but it's also a factor of it's a volume game as well. These coaches get thousands and thousands of recruiting emails, and you want to be in a point where you can send out as many emails as you can. So I think in that sense it was very helpful that Lindy was helping on that front as well. And then just in general, I grew up on a farm in very close to the Free State. So had no experience with, going overseas. Like, what do you need for the visa? What does all of this stuff mean? I think at that time as well, you want to make sure you do the stuff right. You can look stuff up on the internet and try and figure stuff out that way, but having someone that's done it before and they understand the kind of the tedious stuff to the process definitely helps a lot. I remember when I was going in for the visa interview, Lindy was, kind of just prepping me and saying, "Hey, just make sure you say this in this way, and you don't want to say the wrong things, and then that's where your journey ends." So definitely been, I would say, the whole process of reaching out to coaches, getting that first contact, I found that very helpful, and if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Yeah, no, the Lindy is exceptional in what she does. Sometimes she pulls a rabbit out of a hat. Definitely, that's why she's part of our company. Now, moving a little bit away from that transition or back into that transition, what was the biggest challenge you faced going into a new country or being in the new country of the USA? Obviously, culturally, it's very different to South Africa. So, what was that challenge? Either you can talk about on the field challenges or off the field challenges, but what was your challenges you faced in that first or second year of going over to the States?
Yeah, I think this is kind of the funniest one. I had to adjust my accent a lot, because you kind of get tired after 2 or 3 months of people saying, "Oh, what did you say? Can you say that again?" At one point, in South Africa, or like how I would normally say it, I would just say, "Oh, my name is Will," but then they would interpret it as "Whoa." So WOAH, and eventually I was just like, "Oh, it's Will," So, so there's a couple of things that changed in terms of that front. I would also say, I mean, just in general, like coming out of, I was 19, coming overseas, kind of that transition from high school to university. It's very new. It's a new environment. I feel like when you're in South Africa and you go to the local universities there's always someone that went to your high school and to your region, or someone that whereas when I came over, I didn't know anybody. It was like completely a blank page, starting over. And then I think the other thing as well is like, this is kind of weird, but something I also struggled with was in the beginning is just figuring out how stuff worked, especially like, okay, how am I going to get groceries? They have different grocery outlets. So you kind of start to figure out, oh, what is similar to Checkers? This is kind of Woolies prices or whatever, that's kind of how I started figuring things out. But with that being said, I mean, I really enjoy that process of figuring stuff out. And I think when you come overseas, there's a lot of independence, which some people enjoy and which some people struggle with. And when I came over, it's not like, oh, I'm sick. I mean, you just ask my mother if she can give me some medicine or whatever. It's like, oh, I actually have to phone the doctor myself and go and get the stuff, pick up the stuff myself and figure out what I need to get. But yeah, just in general, I think it's just it's a learning process, and I would highly recommend it. I've recommended to all of my friends, especially post college as well. It's good to go overseas. You really grow. You learn yourself. You go back to South Africa after your first year, and you're like, wow, like I'm a different person. I've grown up a lot. You feel like, oh, I can actually look after myself. Yeah, sorry, rambled a little bit off script there, but those are some of the things I would remember that were kind of tough initially.
Yeah, and specifically to your track and field or your shot put and discus, how was that comparable to the challenges you might face in South Africa versus in the US? Is there a big step difference? The training sessions, how did that work?
First of all, I think the US is, if you are a track and field athlete and you don't come to the US, that it's stupid. It's stupid. The amount of facilities and great coaching that's in the US is beyond imaginable. But saying that, there's also insane talent. When I came overseas, I mean, in South Africa, you have a couple people that throw shot put and discus. So, I mean, I was always placing top three. Some years I was number one ranked. But when I came to the US, the amount of depth there is in competition, meaning there's a guy that throws maybe 10 centimeters further than you or like 10 centimeters below you. It's insane. The competition is to this day. I mean, I can't explain to people. It's so deep. So it's a really good environment to grow. In terms of coaching, there's really good coaches all throughout the US. I would say when you do a lot of these initial calls, is trying to figure out, if this is the type of coaching style you like, and is there someone you think if something was to happen to you, would they be able to say, hey, listen, I know stuff is not looking up right now, but I'm here for you if you need anything. Because in my opinion, a coach becomes almost like I won't say your caregiver, but if they are kind of responsible for you in a sense of, if stuff doesn't go like, this is what you need to do. Like, but yeah, just kind of short. The US is a great opportunity for many people, and I would recommend it to many people. If you kind of feel at home, like, I'm stuck and not growing, and everybody, you just feel like you're floating. I would definitely recommend this opportunity to many people.
Yeah, and what does your daily life as a student athlete look like? Take like with one of your daily routines. You don't have to talk about your whole week, but for instance, I don't know what your practice days were, you Monday, Tuesday, but take me through a normal student athlete day in the life.
Yeah. Now kind of looking back at it, it was definitely rough. My degree, I don't know why I chose a difficult degree, but I studied actuarial science as well. So classes would normally start around 8, and I'd finish around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Obviously, in between there were breaks, like lunch. I had an hour break, and then sometimes classes would get cancelled as well. But yeah, from 3, I would say Monday through Friday, most training was from 3 to 7. So I also did a sport that was not. It's not like running. You can't run for 4 hours, but throwing can take 2 hours to do. So we normally get out there, throw for 2 hours, and then we go to the gym and we lift for 2 hours. And I would say that the gym was quite rough. I got extremely strong in 4 years, which is not something I thought would be capable. Would be capable of, but got pretty strong. Yeah, and then at 7, I'd say call it between 6, 7, I'd be done. Go to the dining hall. That's kind of my earlier years. I'd go to the dining hall, and eventually, I got a kitchen, and I just started cooking for myself. And then at 8 o'clock, you're like, I'm going to go to bed now. You're like, no, it's still time for work, So I'd normally I try and work from 8 to 11. I always prioritize my sleep as well. Try to get at least 7 hours of sleep. I would recommend highly 8 hours is definitely more beneficial. A lot of the guys that I was surrounded with that were doing really well, not necessarily the best in academics, but prioritize sleep, made sure that they got everything right. At the end of the day, your body is a machine, and what you put in is what you're going to get out. So, yeah, that's what most of my week would look like. And then on the weekends, we'd also have a little bit of training, mostly like just mobility and movement. Yeah, and then as the season kind of progressed, your training starts to dial back. You can't always train that many hours or train at that high level intensity. Eventually, you have to get game day ready, and you kind of decrease the intensity so that when Saturday comes or whenever you compete, your body feels good and you're ready to go.
No, awesome. Yeah, I think that's one thing that students from South Africa struggle to grasp is when you tell them what their daily routine in the States is going to look like, because you are going for obviously for a sports scholarship, but combined with that, you're still there to get a degree. So you can't really take the one seriously and drop the other one, and that's something we always try to get across to the kids is that you're going to have just as hectic as your weeks are with being a student athlete. There's still time. You get a massive break obviously over your summer holidays for 3 months, and that's also something to not just look forward to, but it's something where you can really rest your body. But if you look back now at your 4 or 5 years that you are in the States and competing in your athletics, what is one moment you look back and say, this is something I'll remember forever, or I truly feel happy that this is why I am here in the States. So like a proud moment, maybe winning a medal somewhere or something like that.
I think in general, before I get to kind of like a moment, I was very fortunate with the school that I went to. We traveled like many places. So I mean, in my undergrad, I got to travel to about 20 states, and I mean, initially it's like a mind breaker because you realize, oh wow, like eh, this planet we live on is so massive, and there's so many different people out there and different ideas and different opinions, and getting to experience that, I don't think a lot of people have that opportunity. But yeah, in terms of a moment, I would say my junior year, we competed at conference, and a, a lot of these universities take conferences very seriously. And I would say we were kind of lacking. We didn't win that conference, but there was a lot of pressure on, oh, is the throwers going to get enough points for the team? And I just remembering on my last throw, I hit a PB, and that won me the conference. And at the end of the day, we didn't win, but there's a lot of pressure on us to kind of perform, and some of the guys didn't have a great day, and I was very happy to come out on top and have a good day and kind of help the team go forward. So I would say that was definitely um, a very proud moment. Yeah, I mean, there's so many. Again, like just having that experience, like going to different states, meeting different people. I would say as well. Sorry, again, kind of off topic, but if you do this experience, like, and let's say you play rugby or you do track or whatever you go and do, like try and talk to people on the other teams. I found a lot of enjoyment in learning different people's backgrounds, and um, that's essentially how I got to Wisconsin today. Was like talking to people on different teams and kind of figuring out stuff along the way. The thing is, you're not supposed to know stuff all the time, and you don't need to have stuff figure out. But trying to figure stuff out is kind of the way I try and approach things. So I definitely try and meet as many people as you can. Try and talk to everyone. Generally, everybody in athletics as a whole, and well, the US athletics is everything sports, but whereas South Africa athletics is just track and field. But yeah, just meeting as many people as you can, trying to make friends, build bonds. That's a crucial part of the process as well.
Yeah, so you kind of touched on my next question. My next question, before we almost finish off with the last question, is what advice would you give a South African kid that is in whatever sport he's currently at, in terms of this pathway? What advice would you give them who wants to pursue studying overseas and competing with their sports?
Yeah, I would say be bold. You never know what you can get. Don't think because let's say you apply to the best program. Um, let's say maybe you want to go to Harvard or wherever, and you feel like, maybe my grades are not the best, or maybe this is not. Just be bold, man. Just do it. I'm a big believer of like rejection is kind of a big part of the stuff I do. I'm not afraid to like just shoot my hand out there and say, hey, like this is kind of curious. Like I would love to be here. And I've had some moments stick where I think it wouldn't happen. So kind of be bold, just reach out to everyone, try and talk to everyone. I would say I got to a point where I was very, I would say, annoying, in terms of talking to people. I could see some people didn't want to talk to you anymore. But some people would see through that and be like, oh, well, this kid really wants to be here, and this guy really wants to perform at that next level. And sometimes just showing that dedication is what people want. You don't have to be necessarily the most talented or the most gifted, but kind of having that sense of, I'm just going to stick my hand out here and see what happens. I would say that's probably my biggest advice I would give. It's something that's helped me a lot. Just being bold, man. Don't shy yourself out of opportunities. Yeah, exactly. Take a risk.
Yeah, no, awesome. Thanks. And then just to finish off on my questions, I see there's a few questions which is not completely on track and field, which I will
Yeah.
answer from my side. But my last question to you, just to finish off, is what's now next for you? What's your next steps now? You obviously you mentioned you doing is it your post grad now in Wisconsin,
Yeah.
and where do you see yourself going from here? I think I get probably 80% of the time I get parents who ask, okay, what's next? So my question to you now is, what's next?
Yeah, it's in some sense, when I came overseas, I wanted to pursue track and field full time, and again with this experiences of meeting different people, and I was very fortunate. I got to see a lot of people go from college to professional sports, and I think last year something clicked where I was like, man, this is not something I be able to do the rest of my life, and in a sense, I was very sad, and it took me a lot of time to kind of make sense of, this is not going to be a part of my life anymore one day. And yeah, so I would say something, I was very proactive in school in terms of getting internships and stuff for my degree as well. So this past summer I worked at a asset management firm in Chicago and got to experience a lot of the finance world, and I really enjoyed it. And that's kind of why I'm doing my post degree in finance now. I'm very excited about the world of finance and where everything is going, and I'm trying to place myself in a position for growth within the industry. So hopefully I can go back to Chicago next summer and start full-time work, and kind of sad at that to put my track and field to a hold on the side and just start focusing on grown-up stuff. But yeah, really enjoyed that, and hope to work in Chicago next year. Should be hearing back from the company in a couple of weeks in terms of full-time offers. But yeah, I hope to stay in the US. Really enjoyed my experience here. Would also like to add, your first year or two in the US, it's going to be tough. I remember I wanted to go home every day. I miss my parents, and just in general, like a tough process. But after that sophomore year, I went home. I was like, wow, like I actually enjoying the US and adapting, and you've made friends and you've kind of understand the ropes of everything. But yeah, just in terms of next steps, yeah, focusing on a career in finance. Let's hopefully see where the rabbit leads me.
Yeah, so that's fantastic to see that there's opportunities for you to actually stay in the States after you're studying, and it's not just coming back to South Africa after you're studying. But you mentioned something very important there that I want to tell the parents and kids who've joined us tonight is to do that internships and do partnerships, get experience throughout your time in the States so that when opportunities arise, like you mentioned in Chicago, that you can take it by full hand and maybe get that opportunity to build a living that side. But yeah, thank you so much for joining today on your side, tonight on our side. I'm gonna run through a few questions here that I see. Kaho, he's already hopped offline. I see, but he asked the question, what achievements in particular do we need to have in order to be accepted into the program? I'm going to change the question a little bit because that's a question obviously I will answer once I speak personally with you guys. It depends on your sport. But from your side, what, how, where was your shot put and discus at in terms of distances before you went over to the States? And where did you kind of finish off? Did you improve significantly, or was it kind of more or less at the same place?
Um, so kind of the progression of shot put and discus is in high school. You start with light implements, so you start with the 1 kilo, you go up to the 1.5, go up to the 175, and then when you get to college, the implements are heavier. So you throw with a shot is 7.26 kilos. Discus is 2 kilos. So in high school, you throw with lighter implements essentially. So I did improve a lot. I would have loved to have done a little bit better. I think I just kind of my competitive side, but I did improve a lot. Before I went over, I think in the country, when I started the program, I was ranked probably seventh or eighth in the country. I was very fortunate. I had a really good coach that kind of stepped in my end of my season, and I got to improve, and I was up, and I think I was second in the country. The next year I was first place, and yeah, I mean, I was just very fortunate. I had a good coach and kind of got me in there. But yeah, I didn't start off as the number one guy in the country. It just kind of worked through that process. And I mean, even before I was kind of top place, something to remember, a lot of these coaches are very good at spotting potential in athletes. So maybe they see, oh, maybe he just needs a little bit of guidance, and you get him on the right track. He would improve a lot. So yeah, definitely wasn't the greatest in the beginning, but I managed to improve. And then when I got over here, I just got exponentially better.
Yeah, awesome. And then I'm going to change your questions a little bit around so that I'll touch on the rugby side of things, Vian. But I see your last question here for Willem is, what have you done to sustain yourself there while being so busy with your studies and your sport? So how did you cope with this intense daily habit of what you had to go through?
Yeah, I would say kind of a thing I do every year is I kind of set out a couple things. What are some things that I want to achieve this year? What are some things that I want to make sure I do? I will say with doing track and field, I had a scholarship and stuff. It paid for most of my things. But I was also a guy that wanted to go and, there's stuff on the weekend to do. We had hiking trips, and, eventually I wanted to buy myself a car, which I was very fortunate enough to do. So in terms of like paying for that, I worked as a tutor on campus. So as an international student, you can work on campus. And depending on where you are, I don't know what the hourly rates are everywhere. I used a lot of that money, and it's just kind of my spending money that I used as what's a good word for it? And Afrikaans say sakgeld, but I would just use that money as kind of
Pocket money, your pocket money.
pocket money, exactly. Just kind of use it as extra cash to kind of go do stuff I wanted to do, and I would. Something we also did every year was we try to make a plan of going to different college football games and different tailgates. So that's something I also try and pay for myself, and but just in general, again, like focusing on what can I do today to make sure that tomorrow is better, like making sure you're eating properly, eating the right amount. A lot of these colleges have very good nutrition coaches, so you can ask them and say, hey, like I'm just kind of feeling down, like what do you think I should do? Like, should I I was never a big guy for weighing my food and stuff, but I started doing it at the end of college because I realized it takes 2 minutes or not even a minute, and a lot more accurate in tracking, and I love quantitative data and stuff, so I really enjoy that. And then I think like I said earlier, like the first year is really tough. Like you're putting yourself out there, you're trying to make new friends, and I'm going to be honest, it didn't always stick. You go to these different events and you try and put yourself out there and say, hey, my name is Willem, kind of curious of this, and that's part of the process. Just because you get rejected doesn't mean anybody else doesn't get. Everybody gets rejected. It's part of the thing, and that person that has the ability to kind of take it to the next step and just say, hey, like it's a numbers game. Just keep going. You'll end up with like really good friends, and hopefully you can have a good experience. Most of the people that I've had the opportunity to meet that are from South Africa studying abroad. Same experiences, like putting themselves out there, doing stuff that they would not normally do in terms of, maybe you're a shy guy or you're not used to like approaching people and going to events and networking. I would say, listen, just put your foot out there and do it. You don't know what might happen.
Yeah, just coming back to, you mentioned it earlier, be bold. Be bold in terms of that, and I love that you mentioned as well that some way that you sustain yourself is still getting out there, still being a student, go to American football games, go hiking, do all of this. Just because you're that side on a scholarship doesn't mean it's the only thing you do is academics and sports. Even though it takes up most of your time, there is still time for some hiking and extra
absolutely
activities.
Absolutely. I mean, there's definitely still time. Sorry, I know it might sound like I never had time, but I definitely had time. I mean, you don't always have a project due the next day, or, there was sometimes like on a Wednesday we would drive out and go watch a baseball game, or, I was fairly close to Memphis. We'd go to Memphis and go play at Top Golf, and, so I definitely had times of relaxation as well, to enjoy myself. But yeah, I mean, you can't always relax. You need to put in that work first, get your stuff in order, and then these opportunities of kind of rest come as a byproduct of that.
Yeah, no, thank you, Willem, thank you for your time. I'll answer Vian's question in regards to the rugby side of things. Because you were the rugby player that side. I know Arkansas State also has a very good rugby program on their side, but I'll answer Vian's. Is there any last questions for Willem in regards to Willem and his athletics or studying that side? And then we're going to greet Willem. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. And we're excited that we have students who've gone through the process and still willing to have a chat with us. It just shows that we really build relationships with you guys. And thank you for taking the time in your day to chat with us. And we'll definitely set up a time again for us to do this.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate everyone. And sorry, I did hang out with a lot of rugby guys at Arkansas State. I mean, I would just say one thing on the rugby. Just make sure, like, understand what your priorities are. what do you want to get out of college? Some schools might have better academic programs, but then rugby is kind of a byproduct of that. And then some schools have a balance of both. So just making sure when you kind of talk to these people, like figure out like what you want and what you don't want. Again, like I was not a rugby player in the college. I did play rugby in high school, but I had a lot of South African rugby friends, and none of them regretted coming overseas. It's a great opportunity. Again, like it's a very crucial factor of what do you want to do one day. Like you want to stay in South Africa, which is fair. I mean, I've got a lot of my mates that still live in SA and had a great time. Or I personally believe like if you have the opportunity to come overseas, you just grow as a person. You become more independent. You kind of grow a thicker skin as well. Yeah. Appreciate the time, and if you guys ever have any other questions, you can. I've got an Instagram. You can reach out to me on Instagram, or if you're formal,
Willie Woos.
yeah, yeah. Maybe I should change that. That was my high
Oh.
school name. I've actually been getting some backlash from some people, but I also have a LinkedIn as well. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn if that's your preferred choice of communication. I'm always open to chat with anybody and kind of share my experiences and kind of some traps and stuff to check out. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you. You're more than welcome to hop off, or you can stay on as I'm gonna finish off for us today. I'm just quickly gonna share my screen again with you guys. So on the last page, you'll see we have a QR code here where you can scan the QR code. We're also going to send everyone who has attended a link where you can sign up with us. I see Zanat and Vian both ask questions, and Kaho also asked questions regarding the requirements to get accepted. We do a free evaluation on you guys in return in regarding to your sports and regarding to your academics to see if you're eligible to go study overseas and go compete there with your soccer, rugby, athletics, your sports. So please feel free to scan the QR code, sign your details down there. We'll get in contact with you. We'll give you a call. We'll set up a free consultation with you where we'll chat with you more in depthly to regarding what requirements, what does it work, how we work as Sable International specifically with our students. But again, Willem, thank you for your time. Thank you for everyone who joined. I'm going to leave the screen up for a few more minutes so that you guys can scan the QR code and go sign up for the free evaluation. Have a lovely evening and we'll chat soon.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you so much.